because I've got quite a big garden to look after, something I've found to save time is when I'm feeding the tomatoes, if I use a feed spray gun, I think that's what you call it, that saves a lot of time. So instead of mixing your tomato feed into your watering can and watering each individual tomato, what you do is you put a little bit of feed into here, fill this up to the top, and then it goes into the gun and then onto your hose, and this will then mix it for you. So you're giving your tomatoes a feed. And that just then mixes your feed in with the water to help your tomatoes grow. Sweet peas, they need to be harvested on the regular, so all the time. If you don't harvest them, they'll go to seed, and that will take a lot of energy out of the plant, and the plant feels like it's done its job. So we're taking off this one, and then we'll tie in the growth to try and encourage straighter growth. And I'll tie that into here with some raffia so it's nice and gentle for the plant, and it biodegrades. Because we're on such a heavy clay soil here, I find the hoe doesn't always work, so we tend to just get on our hands and knees and get each one out, and then you're removing it at the same time so it doesn't look messy on the top. Rather than harvesting the whole lettuce, we have some lettuces in the kitchen garden that we will harvest as a whole lettuce, but the ones in here I tend to just pick off the leaves from the side, and then they'll just keep growing out from the inside, and that means we have a continuous crop of lettuce. So I'll just be taking off the sides all the way around. I'm going to prick out these lettuce seedlings. First, what we're going to do is we're going to fill up these trays that we use every year, and then it goes into the tray. You're looking to get a little clump out like this. You do this when the true leaves have started to come through. That's the true leaf there. So you know they're big enough and strong enough to be handled. I'll make a hole in here. Then you work your way through. First started, I thought deadheading a rose was literally just taking off the spent top where the rose was. So it would have been something like this. But I now try and think of it more like summer pruning. So if I now take this stem here, where this flower, if the other two have now gone, this one won't have long. So I'm going to prune that right down, much shorter now. And we're taking off a much larger piece, and that will then reflower again in a few weeks' time. So that's the established wildflower meadow. And now I'm trying to establish a meadow where there is a much more fertile soil, and where it's fertile the grass grows really high, and it doesn't really give the chance for the wildflowers to grow. So what I've done is I've started to establish yellow rattle, which is this plant here, and it's parasitic on grass, so that will eventually suppress the grass, and it's starting to work because we're having the oxeye daisy now coming through, and the idea is it will then carry on through down beyond the apple trees. So we do a granular feed every week, which we use a multi-purpose, all-purpose plant feed, which is 2 scoops into a watering can, and then I decant that into a smaller one to go through each individual pot to make sure they've had a feed. We also put in a continuous release plant feed as well to help just as feed throughout the season, basically, which you can see in here. They just sit on the compost, and as we water it, it will release some more food into the plant. After we know that the frosts have passed, we'll make sure that we get our bedding plants as soon as we can, so they're well established for the summer. So I've got 2 trailing pelargoniums here. again, I'd rather use my hands. I'd like to just get in. So get this one in, nice set of roots. Give them a tease. Add it into the hole. Same with this one. That will give us a bit of colour as this is quite high. We'll have some colour at the bottom here. We'll cut our box hedges twice. I use a hedge trimmer, an electric hedge trimmer first, and then we'll go back over them with our hand shears after, because I find it gets a much tighter cut. So I use these RKR 1000s. They're really light, really sharp, and that just gives us a much tighter, neater clip after we've gone around with the hedge trimmer. And we do this, it's always after our open day, which is in June, so you can do it any time between May and the beginning of June.